Texans may have added something. Now, whether or not they needed it is to be determined. But they definitely got it, and it ain't a bad thing. Let's go inside the locker room.
Yeah. It's the locker room on YouTube. You know what it is. Let's get it. Hey, locker room. Yeah, we in the locker room. Texans talk. Yeah, you know what we about to do. Localize every angle's what we really do.
We saw the Texans last year, and they got a lot further than many of us had anticipated. Now, what did they need to add to this team? They added Stefon Diggs, and that's the thing that we talk about that garners the most attention. But they also might have added something that most football teams dream to add, and that is toughness. If you look at this Texans team and you look at the way in which these guys that they added carry themselves, the way that they handle themselves, the way they speak, the way that they play, it looks like the Texans may have proactively added toughness. Now, that's not to say that they needed to add toughness, but for the most part, when you look at what the Texans were last year, they were a team that had a really good quarterback. They had good young receivers, and there were certain areas where in order to win late in the season, they kind of struggled. They were not good rushing the football, and they didn't get after the quarterback as well as they probably should have. Those were two things that Nick Caserio and company addressed in the offseason. And I want to focus on a couple of guys that I think add an element of toughness that most championship teams possess. And I'm going to start with Danielle Hunter. Danielle Hunter, and I look at this as kind of an overly optimistic outlook, a historic outlook of Danielle Hunter, because when you look at some of the teams that have been right there on the edge, and the Texans have only been there 1 year late in the season, a few minutes away from getting to the conference championship. But a lot of times when teams are trying to get to a certain point, they add a guy that just completely takes them over the top. And I'll go back to the first example of this, at least in my lifetime. And I'm a millennial. Some of y'all might be Gen Z. Shout out to the boomers as well. I'm not going to go back to the 70s or anything like that. But Reggie White is the one that sticks out to me. Reggie White was the missing ingredient for Brett Favre and the Green Bay Packers. And he goes from Philadelphia to Green Bay, and he takes them over the top. They end up eventually winning the Super Bowl, and we all remember Reggie White as one of those guys. Charles Haley for the Dallas Cowboys. Charles Haley was a guy who was in San Francisco. Dallas was a young team. That they weren't quite extremely battle-tested as a lot of the other squads, and they actually got kind of ahead of schedule because they added Charles Haley, and they ended up winning a few championships as a result of that. So right there, that's an example of 4 Super Bowls. Deion Sanders went to the 49ers, and that kind of was their missing piece. That was what they needed. Steve Young didn't win a Super Bowl after Deion left, but Deion came there. He was in the MVP discussion, and he kind of set him off. Most recently, DeMarcus Ware. DeMarcus Ware goes from Dallas to Denver. He's kind of their missing piece. Now a Hall of Famer. He takes them over the top. Now, I'm not saying that Danielle Hunter is going to end up doing that. What I'm saying is a player of that caliber, and if you just look like statistically, and we just look at the stat that we look at the most sacks, Danielle Hunter had 16 sacks last season. And this isn't even taking into account that you already have Will Anderson, who you feel good about, who was banged up last year, who's probably going to have even more sacks this year than he did before. The year before Reggie White went to Green Bay, he had 14 sacks with the Eagles. So he had 14. He went there. He kind of set them off. I'm not comparing the two. I'm just saying that's where they were. DeMarcus Ware, before he went to the Dallas Cowboys or the Denver Broncos from the Dallas Cowboys, DeMarcus Ware with the Cowboys the year before he went there and gave them the missing element. He actually had 6. He missed games. The year before that, he had 11 and a half. So a player of this caliber, if you throw them in the mix of a young nucleus, they can put you over the top. There's a reason why Danielle Hunter, that's the most money that Nick Caserio has ever given a free agent. And there's a reason why D'Amico Ryans and company like Danielle Hunter. The other thing I like about Danielle Hunter when it comes to an element he adds to this team is he's just very, very, very businesslike. And CJ Stroud, we know he's businesslike as well. We know that these guys as a whole are really, really businesslike, but Danielle Hunter kind of adds that seriousness to the Texans. What does it mean? How historic can it be? Who knows? But 16 sacks last year is what you added. And don't minimize just how much that can take you from one point to another. Then we have a rookie. And I'm going to call him Iron Kamari Lassiter. Because Kamari Lassiter, when you hear him speak, and we'll hear him in a second, Kamari Lassiter is completely just all about that business. This was Kamari Lassiter the other day. Notice the guy's not wearing gloves. He's not wearing any sleeves. He's not wearing any armbands. And this is the first time we saw him on an NFL field. Now, I don't know if this is going to be a thing. The thumbnail you see, he's wearing gloves. But this is just a scary, intense element to a team that is incredibly spatted up. You look at Tank Dell, you look at Nico Collins. This team has a lot of flash, and it has a lot of substance. But you put this guy opposite Derek Stingley, and I think Derek Stingley adds toughness as well. But much like Danielle Hunter is kind of a compliment to Will Anderson at a prime position, you look at Derek Stingley, the ball skills, and you'll hear Kamari Lassiter talk about those in a second. The ball skills that Derek Stingley possesses and just the overall craft, I don't want to call it finesse, but it's not just the pure grit. There's a little bit of flash. There's a little bit of sauce to Derek Stingley's game. Might be some with Kamari Lassiter, but I mean, just look at this guy. And we'll hear from him in a second as well. I think the Texans have added toughness. There's a few other guys that I think you can add to this mix. But let's hear from Kamari Lassiter, and you can get just kind of a feel of how businesslike and how professional this young man is. And this is the guy who Kirby Smart went up there and just completely pounded the table for whenever Kamari Lassiter elected to play in the final bowl game of Georgia's season last year against Florida State. If you don't remember that, it's one of my favorite sound clips. You've seen me play it a couple of times. Let's hear Kirby Smart just praising Kamari Lassiter and what the hell he's about.
1-2 grade, first, second round grade. And Kamari had to make a tough decision like all these other people. And I called Kamari in and I talked to him and I told him, Kamari, you should come out for the draft. That's my opinion. You're one of the top corners in the draft. You got to make that decision. Okay, that's one decision. Then the second decision is you got to decide if you want to play this bowl game. I don't know that you got a lot to gain in this bowl game, Kamari, but I do know who you are. And I do know how you practice, and I do know how you lead. But I'm not going to be disappointed in anything you decide. He came back about 3 or 4 days later, and I met with him and his mom and talked to him and fully expected him not to play in this game. He called me 2 days later, said, Coach, I can't do it. I can't do it. I'm sitting out. I'm over there coaching. I can't do it. I want to be out there. I want to play with my guys. And I think he did it against his mother's will, to be honest. Now, I don't know that, but I think he did it against his mother's will because that's who he is. So all these teams that go shopping, this dude right here wants to play football. That's all he cares about is playing football and his teammates. He ain't worried about the next thing and all that and all that. He said, I want to play football. And he played football for the University of Georgia. And he did it when he didn't have to do it. And that's what's different at this place than a lot of other places.
So there you go. I mean, not only does he shout out Kamari Lassiter, he uses him as an example of what Georgia football is all about. I actually got to ask Kamari Lassiter about this. Look at that seriousness right there. Iron Kamari Lassiter. This is what he had to say about just that decision. And I think this kind of gives us a little bit more of a peek into the element that the Texans have added, whether it was calculated or not, just the element they added with the Danielle Hunters and the Kamari Lassiters.
You got a viral clip of Kirby Smart praising you for deciding to play in the bowl game. A lot of guys in your position, they opt out. What went into that decision? Is that kind of what D'Amico and Caserio like about you when they talk about he just likes to play football?
Yeah, I mean, I eat, sleep, and breathe football. Football has been the love of my life since I was 3 years old. So, I mean, I had the opportunity to play in the game with my teammates, and I was fully healthy. So, I mean, they're in my brain, it was a no-brainer. Like, it's football. Why would I not play? So, other guys chose to make other decisions. That's neither here nor there. I respect the decision regardless because, everyone has to make a decision for themselves and their family and, their betterhood. But, my decision was to go out there and play football.
You got a viral clip of Kirby Smart.
That's just kind of what it's about with him. I just think I think it's an element that most football teams need. I think it's an element that the Texans have added. And you just look at just the overall, just the body language of these guys, like Danielle Hunter. Like, look at Danielle Hunter. Will Anderson. He is one of the culture guys. He's one of the guys that has helped build this thing. He's the one that said the Texans aren't for everyone. But he's still a kid. I mean, he's still a very, very young man. This is Danielle Hunter talking about what he brings to the Texans when he met with the media.
It feels good. Going up against a good offensive line and a great quarterback, trying to find ways how to make them better. And vice versa, they try to make us better. But the biggest thing is, like, our defensive line, we try to affect the quarterback, and us trying to affect CJ, it makes him a better quarterback by making his reads, his throws better and everything. So, I mean, it's just iron sharpening iron.
There you go. And you already have the veteran repeating what the coaches have to say. I just think there's been an added element of toughness. And you can add other guys to this discussion. Azeez Al-Shaair, add him to the mix. Jalen Petrie in his new role. You have a little bit more nastiness at the line of scrimmage with Jalen Petrie. He's been one of those guys that even at his lowest points, you've had Caserio and you've had D'Amico have extreme high praise of Jalen Petrie. And then even on the other side of the rock, Stefon Diggs, and I know that receivers get, kind of labeled, I don't want to say soft, but diva, whatever the hell you want to call it. He's got a little bit of toughness. He's been a captain before. And then Joe Mixon. We haven't even, the crazy thing about the Mixon element is we haven't even really gotten a look at it. He's been on the sidelines. I mean, we've seen it on the sidelines. He's clearly engaged. He's clearly a good teammate. He's clearly active, but we haven't even really gotten a look at what Joe Mixon is about and what he's going to bring to the table. And that's what's crazy about that. And that's another guy that was a captain. Azeez Al-Shaair, he was a captain. They've added 3 captains. They've added toughness. Kamari Lassiter, he was a captain at Georgia. So there's a lot of leadership. There's a lot of grit. I don't think anyone left to see. There are times where a team goes through growing pains and, you have playoff exits and for whatever reason you lose and you start to hear, well, this team needs to add toughness and this team needs to add toughness. I don't necessarily think that was the case with the Texans last year. They probably needed some experience, but sometimes teams go through, 3 years and then all of a sudden it's like, all right, well, we need to add some toughness to this squad. I don't even know that the Texans lacked it, but I damn sure think that they added a hell of a lot of it. And it's really good complementary pieces. And that's what I like the most about this Texans squad. And that's what I like the most about these pieces that they've added is their complements to their already young pieces. And that right there, when you talk about a football team and you talk about having a little bit of everything, I think that's the interesting thing. You have Will Anderson, who's the defensive rookie of the year on one side. You had Danielle Hunter, who's a veteran, who's coming off 16 sacks. You have Derek Stingley, who was the AFC Defensive Player of the month last year in December. And you add Kamari Lassiter. Then you have Tank Dell and Nico Collins. You add Stefon Diggs opposite them. You have Christian Harris, who D'Amico Ryans kind of took under his wing, and we saw him do his thing last year. You add Azeez Al-Shaair. So you added all of these elements, And it's just a perfect mix. And it's the opportunity you have as long as CJ Stroud's on his rookie deal. Speaking of rookie deals, Kamari Lassiter, he's a rookie. He doesn't sound like one. Let's hear what Kamari Lassiter sounds like. And we'll just get a little, I mean, it's one thing to look out there and see the dude not rocking gloves on the field. Let's just listen to the you can kind of feel the intensity of Kamari Lassiter when he's at the podium, which he was yesterday.
Process when you go back and look at stuff like you did on Saturday. How in depth do you go? How critical are you of yourself and finding ways to improve?
I would say I'm very critical of myself. I would say, you know, I'm itching to watch the game. Like, as soon as the game's over, I'm itching to watch it, like, probably right after. But in terms of, I just want to see, you know, what the call was. How well did I, you know, execute the call? What could I do better on that play? What was my pre-snap process? Kind of just going back, jogging my memory throughout the game and just kind of seeing what I was thinking, remembering what I was seeing throughout the game and just seeing what I could do better.
As a rookie, you have this character trait that most veterans have that's been in this league for a long time, to be able to flush out a mistake. You don't never carry a play over into the next play. How much did being at the University of Georgia prepare you for that?
I would say I credit a lot of that, you know, being at Georgia, to, you know, me being able to kind of translate that, you know, in the NFL. I would say, you know, coming up at Georgia, it was hard, you know, having a coach like Coach Smart, a guy who a lot of people would think is crazy, just kind of going at you every day, and just being in, you know, kind of that environment, it just kind of, you know, makes you want to, you know, kind of forget if you made a bad play, just kind of forget it and being able to try and make up for it the next player.
You've been itching to finally play. What were the feelings like before the game, and how did you feel after?
Foaming at the mouth.
Man, it was like a dream, honestly. You know, being able, you know, this is something that, you know, I dreamed of since I was probably 4 or 5 years old, and this kind of just all came full circle. You know, I called my mom before the game, you know, saying our prayer, and I could just hear her, you know, in tears on the phone, and it just kind of all got to me just, you know, warming up. And I was like, man, you know, it's everything I thought it would be, and just being out there, being with the guys that I'm playing with, they just make it a lot easier. So, you know, I have no complaints.
From defensive back to defensive back, just getting a chance to watch Sting practices, games, tape, his ball skills and his ability to track the ball. Looking at your reaction there, how would you kind of describe that, and how elite is that trait that he has?
Second to none, honestly. I haven't seen a defensive back have as good as ball skills as he has. Like, it's just like a superpower of his. Like, he's just able to just snatch it up out the air. Like, you know, it's just something that you really can't teach. You can't coach that. That's something that God blessed him with, and you know, he uses it all the time, and it's just crazy to watch. You know, I'm like, hey, that's Sting right there. I told him on the side, I'm like, yeah, you that one for sure. But yeah.
Kamari, you obviously got a chance now. You still got a chance to watch the film and the game. Your thoughts about your own play? You say you're your worst critic. What did you think about how you played?
I mean, I think I played okay. It was first game, so I mean, I have a long way to go. But I feel like I played okay. There's a lot that I can improve on. You know, technically wise, I feel like I could have played a little faster. I feel like I could have showed a little more excitement out there. But I feel like I did okay. I don't think I played, you know, too good, but I don't think I played bad as well.
What have you seen from Kalen Bullock, the way that he's been able to transition from the college game to the pros, and now he's getting more and more playing time?
Kalen, that's bro, first off. Just coming in together. I already knew what kind of player he was, and I already knew what kind of person he was. So just us being able to kind of just play together and kind of also grow together at the same time, it's just like, it's fun. You know, it's fun going out there and playing with him. Just seeing them grow from the day we got here until now. Like, you know, me, I already knew in the back of my head, I'm like, I already know, like, what bro could do. But him just going out there, making plays, and then just turning up with each other, it's just fun. It just makes the game and playing and practice and all that just more fun.
Kamari, could you know, a lot of guys take a look at the Jumbotron during the course of the game, seeing the replays. Are you sneaking a view, looking up at the board, depending on the plays that's coming your way, and then trying to catch a quick review and try to do a self-evaluation in a quick second, like some of the guys are doing now?
I would say that is something that I've caught myself doing, even at practice sometimes. Like, it's like a little video replay of practice, and if I have time, like a quick second. It's not super fast paced. Offense usually likes to get their play in. Defense kind of gets our playing in the huddle. So I usually catch myself kind of getting a quick glimpse of what just happened. But then at the same time, just kind of having that next play mentality.
You played this past weekend. How much were you able to take from going up against Tank, Nico, and Stefon throughout practice, taking it over and transferring it to this game?
Well, I feel like I practice against some of the best receivers every day, so it just kind of makes the game kind of just come more naturally to me. So just going up against those guys on a daily basis, it just makes the game just come a little bit more slow, and I'm able to see stuff and I'm able to react because I know that I went against the best in practice.
Obviously, earlier you said you're kind of perfectionist. How do you kind of balance that while also giving yourself grace, knowing that you are a rookie? This is your first year in the NFL, and you have accomplished so much. How do you kind of balance being overly critical of yourself but giving yourself grace?
I feel like rookie is just a word, honestly. I was brought here to come and do a job, so I feel like if I'm not doing my job to my standard or the standard that that the organization has, then it doesn't really matter. So it's a balance. I know I'm going to make mistakes. I'm not going out there trying to walk on eggshells, knowing I'm going to play fast, I'm going to play physical, I'm going to play my brand of football. But at the same time, I want it to be right. I want it to be decent and in order, and I want it to match the standard of our organization. So I understand that it's my first year. It's going to be a lot of things that I don't know or that I will see and that I will have to come across and make better. But in terms of me kind of making that balance, it's just going out there playing fast, playing confident, and then just learning from my mistakes.
Thanks, Mark.
Appreciate y'all.
Thank you.
All right, there you go. Rookie's just a word. I've heard age is just a number, but rookie's just a word. Age is just a number. Didn't really travel very well, though, did it? Colton says he is, and appreciate the super, Colton, flying in from Cali this weekend for the game. Good for you. Don't know if you're going to see too many starters, but enjoy yourself. If you need any food recommendations, just let me know. Let me know what kind of grub you want to get. I don't know what y'all are lacking out there in California, but I just think that the Kamari Lassiter, the Danielle Hunter, the Azeez Al-Shaair, that element of a football team is something that you need, and I think it's something that they added. And quite frankly, I think it could have developed within. That's the scarier thing about it. Like, it's not. You saw them lose to Baltimore. I didn't just walk away and say, man. They did get physically dominated, but I didn't walk away and say, man, this team lacks toughness. I just think Baltimore was better. Baltimore was more battle tested. Baltimore was a little further ahead in their process, and they ended up just roughing up the Texans. I didn't look at it as, well, they really need to get tougher this offseason. I think that's going to happen naturally. And that's kind of the beauty of when you have an offseason like the Texans did, where you were incredibly aggressive. You added all these pieces, elite piece on offense and Stefon Diggs, elite piece on defense and Danielle Hunter, complimentary guys like Azeez Al-Shaair, Joe Mixon, who's probably more than a complimentary guy. And then you get Kamari Lassiter. He's right now your number 2 corner. We'll see what he ends up being. But even with all that, even if the Texans were what they were 2 years ago, you're excited about that offseason. But you factor in that you had the best roster of players in their early 20s, then a lot of this stuff that you say or look at and say they might need this, it can come within. Like, if we just went through this Texans roster and we just talked about whose best football is ahead of them, like what players' best football is ahead of them, it's almost crazy to think about. We'll stay away from the O-line. We won't go in the trenches there. But CJ Stroud, best is ahead. Nico Collins, you would think the best is ahead. Tank Dell, best is ahead. That's 3 guys at 3 marquee positions. Those are 2 of the highest paid positions, and you have 3 guys with their best ball ahead. Derek Stingley, best ball ahead. That's a corner. That's another marquee position. Will Anderson, best ball ahead. That's 5. Christian Harris, perhaps best ball ahead. Jalen Petrie, perhaps best ball ahead. So you have all these guys. You have this core of guys where improvement is going to come within, and then you add all these pieces and you sprinkle it together, and that's why you have all this optimism. And that's why we've arrived at a point where you almost couldn't say anything good about the Texans a couple of years ago when it was process over results. And now we're to the point where the fans, like, you say anything bad about the Texans and they're ready to fight you. And that's great. We haven't seen this team play. Like, maybe when they go on the field, maybe we see an inability to run the ball. Maybe we see struggles at safety. Maybe we see perhaps depth issues at the front 7. Maybe we see that. But when you sprinkle in the fact that the Texans are the perfect mix of being aggressive and keeping the powder dry from a long-term standpoint, that's encouraging. And when you look at the actual roster and you see that they've added these established pieces with different personalities and assets and intangibles that you think that you need in order to win a championship, that's what's crazy. And the sky's the limit. Anything can happen, though. We know that anything can happen. Like, there could be some disappointment. But here's the other thing about it. This isn't Lamar Jackson in Baltimore. This isn't, Peyton Manning in Indianapolis before he got over the hump. This is a young squad. Now, I know the average age has gone up because of some of these guys that they've brought in, veterans, but it's a young core. So I'm not sitting here saying that, it's all sunshine no matter what happens. But what I'm saying is, typically, more times than not, young guys are going to go through struggles. Young guys are going to go through growing pains. Some things went the Texans' way last year that allowed them to win that playoff game. So maybe we're ahead of ourselves, but then again, maybe we're not, because this is it is a perfect mix, at least right now, at least sitting less than 3 weeks away from the start of the season against the Indianapolis Colts. It appears to be kind of a perfect mix of everything that you would want in a football team. Nick Caserio pays Danielle Hunter more than he's ever paid any free agent. And how many years does he give him? 2. He sticks to the 2-year deal. Remember when the Texans were ass and we were talking about, they got the $50 million in dead cap and this team isn't going anywhere. And why won't Nick Caserio give long-term contracts? He's been able to keep that philosophy while being aggressive. And the reality of it is, most NFL contracts are 2 years. You see guys get 5-year deals, and a few years later, they're on the streets as free agents. But Nick Caserio has been able to kind of balance what's going on here. And I think the interesting thing is, and this is going to be one of those things that's kind of like the deeper meaning, kind of in the sticks type of thing, is I want to see how Nick Caserio works when they need to fill some pieces on the back end. The Derek Barnett move of last year, where Derek Barnett fit into what they did. So they went out and acquired Derek Barnett. I mean, that's what's going to be interesting. Because the other thing about it is, you look at Nick Caserio, it feels like he's been here for damn near 10 years. This is Nick Caserio's 4th season. So you can say they're a little bit ahead of schedule. But it's a perfect mix of everything you want. They got dry powder and they've been relatively aggressive. So I'm very intrigued about it. And I think it's going to be really, really interesting to see what goes down with Nick Caserio, with this squad, with the development, as well as with the pieces that they've added that add toughness. BH says, not going to lie, I'm shocked. We're extending Ward to the point he's going to be a 35-year-old safety. Why not? Older safety, older vet. I don't think you broke bread for Jimmy Ward. You're going to have him going all out, give him a little bit of stability. He's one of those glue guys. The other thing is you got Kalen Bullock. He's going to be on his rookie deal for 3 more years. Jalen Petry's going to have another year left. So if you just look at it, like, let's pretend like you have a budget, and this isn't the way that coaches and GMs look at rosters, but I'm sure there's a certain element to it. Like, you don't want to invest too much in one position because it's a piece of the pie. But let's look at the safety position with where the Texans are right now. You have Kalen Bullock, who is on a day 2, 3rd-round pick rookie deal. You have Jalen Petry, who's in his 3rd season. Next year, he's still going to be on his rookie deal. And then Jimmy Ward, assuming that he can still ball next year, you're giving him what? I mean, it's not like a significant steep contract. So if you just look at how much you're actually paying the safety position, once Jimmy Ward's contract expires, that's when they're going to have to pay Petry, or maybe they even bring in a safety. It's not going to stop you from bringing in a safety with Jimmy Ward being there. So, Texans cap, all those guys might get into more the actual numbers of what that means, but I don't look at the Jimmy Ward deal as something crazy. I mean, it's not like they locked him up long term, and safety's relatively cheap. And really everything is cheap right now. Like the premium positions, Will Anderson and CJ Stroud next year aren't even eligible for extensions. Tank Dell's not eligible for an extension next year. And those are your expensive positions. You already got Danielle Hunter, Lassiter. You're going to have him on a rookie deal. So you can be a little bit aggressive. Now, if CJ Stroud were one of the highest paid quarterbacks in the league and you were paying Will Anderson whatever he warrants and Derek Stingley, and you were doing stuff like this, then it would all add up. But in this situation, you can do stuff like this and keep your core guys around and keep them happy. So I don't look too much into the Jimmy Ward situation. Dime, shout out to Dime. Is that a puka shell necklace? I used to rock the hell out of those in high school. I think the key to success now is, can we run the ball? That's kind of scary. I'll be honest, that's kind of scary. I don't disagree with you, and I don't think they disagree with you. But I don't know if they can run the rock. As exciting as Cam Akers is, it's cool. But should we be saying, like if in a perfect world, let's say that you have a good running back room, like what should we be saying about Cam Akers? Man, could he be the 3rd back on this team? Could they maybe keep Cam Akers around? I'm not disagreeing that when you watch him, he doesn't stick out among the other running backs. But does that say more about Cam Akers, or does it say more about the state of the running back position, which is something that I've hammered home all offseason? Maybe it's a little bit of both. I don't know. But it might be as much of an indictment on Dameon Pierce as it is what Cam Akers is doing. Because if Dameon Pierce were looking like it seemed like the Texans wanted him to look, then I don't know. Like the Cam Akers thing is kind of hard for me to overly assess. Pete G, shout out to the locker room for keeping us plugged in. Shout out to you for allowing me to do so. BH, Aziz, Hunter, and Mixon are more durable than Cashman, Grenard, and other pieces we've had. Yeah, Cashman couldn't stay healthy. He got banged up a lot. And that was one of his biggest problems early in his career. Even last year, there were times he was banged up. I don't want to minimize what Cashman was, though. I've heard people say Aziz is automatically an upgrade. Okay, we'll see. And I'm not saying that he can't be. I'm not saying that it's crazy. I've liked what I've seen from him in camp. But I'm not gonna minimize what Blake Cashman did for this ball club last year. I thought it was very important. I thought it was very impressive, and I thought it was very nice. And quite frankly, if Aziz just plays that well and is able to stay on the field longer, I think we feel good. Mixon more durable than Singletary? I don't know. I mean, Singletary, yeah, okay. I like Mixon. And then Grenard, Grenard, he's had trouble staying on the field. There's definitely no disputing that. If Sting balls out, how much is he going to cost? I mean, it's going to be it's going to be top corner in the league money. I mean, he's going to ball. It's not a matter of if he's going to ball. I think he's going to have to ball and stay relatively healthy. Maybe it's a break if he doesn't, because you get somewhat of a bargain. I don't know how you handle that extension, quite frankly, given the fact that the larger sample size is that he can't stay on the field. Like if he has one healthy season, does that outweigh everything else? I don't know. But I don't like, is Derek Stingley going to ball? The answer is yes if he's on the field. Is he going to be on the field and how often? I think that's up for debate. Rich Boy J. I don't know if I read that right or just sounded about as white as a damn piece of notebook paper, but appreciate you for coming through. I feel like this isn't talked about a ton, so are you nobody's talking about guy? How valuable is it that we have such a good receiving core in regards to development of our defense? Okay, so you're talking about the practice where, like in practice, Lassiter and Stingley are going against Diggs, Tank, and Nico. I think there's value in that. I really do. And I mean, there have been camps where you see the Texans D-line dominating and you're like, damn, man, this might be one of the best D-lines that the Texans have ever had. And then I'll be damned. Well, that offensive line sucks. So, of course, they look good. It can't hurt. I mean, it definitely can't hurt to, be a rookie like Kamari Lassiter and go out there and line up and one rep you're guarding Diggs, next rep you're guarding Nico, and then the next rep you're having to guard Tank. Definitely can't hurt. So I think the value is there, and I think that works on the edge too. When you're looking at Blake Fisher, Tunsil doesn't practice a lot, and Titus. But I think that the running game will benefit the passing attack. I actually think the passing attack will benefit the run game. Maybe it's kind of a reverse. It's always like that argument, a good D line can make a secondary better, but I think a good secondary can make a good D line better as well. So I think there's that. We traded away our second pick in the 4th. There were a lot of halfbacks that went in that round. Yeah, and I was pissed. I was really pissed. I was pissed when Wright went to the Dolphins, and he's already looking pretty good, and they already have running backs, but they like to stockpile running backs. And I was pissed when Green Bay took a back. Yeah, I wanted a back in that, and they ended up having to settle kind of there. What's up, Chef? Am I the only one nervous? I haven't seen Joe Mix at all. No, he's fine. He's been fine for a while. He's been working on the side. Joe Mixon, week 1, he'll be ready to go. And he'll probably give you 15 to 20 carries. Yeah, don't be worried about Joe Mixon at all. Cashman was a dog. I agree. I don't know why people are so quick to kind of crap on him.
I'm a dog, I'm a dog, I'm a dog, I'm a dog.
Players are saying Azeez is the best middle linebacker as far as communication and holding. Yeah, you can see that. I mean, he is all over the place. He is in your face after mistakes. The communication is there. And communication is one of those things that DeMeco Ryans values. He talks about it a lot. I don't know if he wants it from everyone. I don't know if it's just certain guys, but I mean, he wants it to a certain point, but like that level of communication, I got to think there's only certain guys that a coach wants doing that. Like you don't want third string guy to come in there and be handling himself the way that Azeez is. It's not bad. It's leadership, at least from him, from someone that they're actually going to be relying on. Danico and Cabo. Danico Autry will be interesting. I mean, could that be, if you have to maintain without Danico Autry, then if he is what they thought he was, and God, Nick Caserio praised him and, D'Amico praised him, then you're almost getting like a nice, it's almost like a big trade acquisition. If he's able to come in and add another element. See, I didn't even mention him and the dogs at the beginning. But yeah, he's right there. Who's the tight end on the bubble? I don't know that anyone's on the bubble. I think the tight end position is relatively set. I'm actually going to speak on that tonight, the state of the tight end position. We'll hear from the gaming bro, Dalton Schultz, but I think it's Schultz. I think it's Brevin Jordan. I think it's Stover. And then if they keep Andrew Beck, I know he would be a fullback. He's kind of a fourth tight end. Quitoriano's hurt. So I don't know that there's any tight end on the bubble. I think that is among the most set in stone positions that there are. I actually think it is the most set in stone position. Quitoriano starting off good in camp and then getting hurt, kind of par for the course. But yeah, I think the tight end position is set for sure. Haven't had a good run game since 2019. It wasn't that good, though. I mean, it was Carlos Hyde. It gets glorified because it's been so bad, but it wasn't like great. I mean, there were times where they ran the ball well, but it wasn't awesome. Reggie says, from a report I saw, he's able to practice and play in preseason, but I haven't even heard his name or seen him in practice in weeks. Yeah, usually you're allowed when you're suspended to play in preseason. I guess they're just holding him out and letting him do his thing. They don't even want to risk it. But yeah, that it's typically you can, like, remember, do you not remember the reason that I knew this? I think Brady, when he got suspended, he played in preseason, if I'm not mistaken. I think he played a lot. But you remember Mr. Preseason himself was always Josh Gordon. Josh Gordon would be like suspended every year. And then you would see him in the preseason and he would just completely mash. And then someone in your fantasy team would pick up Josh Gordon and just stash him. Stash. He knows a thing or two about stash. Shout out to Josh Gordon. I ain't judging you, my friend.
High-grade marijuana called Kush on the streets. Did you know what that was?
No, I
Me
do.
neither.
Yeah, but you would stash him on your roster, but you would see him go out there and do his thing. Shout out to H-Town 94, my guy. Biggest deal for me is, can we consistently get pressure on the QB? We do that. Everything else falls into place. I think the answer to that is yes. Like, if Will Anderson and Danielle Hunter are on there, you're pressuring the quarterback. There's zero doubt about that. As a matter of fact, I think a case can be made that they might be more elite at edge than they are at receiver. And I think they have a top 5 receiving core. So yes, there's absolutely, like, if that's what you're hanging your hat on and you want to see whether or not they can get after the quarterback, I think you're going to be pleased. They're going to get after the quarterback. Now, how's Will going to hold up? We'll see. But yeah, I think if that's what you're hoping, I think you're going to be all right. For sure. I think you'll be okay on that. That's a big take. Is it really big? You're talking about a guy who had 16 sacks in the defensive player of the year. That's your edge, guys. And then your wide receivers, you have Diggs, Dell, and Nico. That's good. That's good. But I don't think it's too crazy. Who will have a bigger year? Hunter or Stingley? I think Stingley, if he's on the field, I think Stingley is going to be an absolute star. I think we're talking all pro caliber if he's on the field. That's why I've talked about the Bet US odds 150-1 for Derek Stingley to be defensive player of the year. It's probably gone down yet. Can Petrie sustain his success if Ward is out? I think that's an interesting question. I think that's why, as good as you feel about Petrie, I don't know that makes you feel any better about the safety position. How dependent is he? Like, is the usage of Jalen Petrie, is it dependent on the health of Jimmy Ward? Because that you can't really rely on that. That's not something that you want to bet on. So I think that's a really good question from you, Herman. Big time. I think that's an excellent question for sure. So we'll see about that. Be sure to swarm the like button. Appreciate everyone for coming through. It is the Locker Room, #1 source for Texans digital content. So we got joint practices on Thursday, Texans versus Rams. There's only going to be one. This is kind of late. I am intrigued to see what this looks like. The Miami ones last year were legit. It was actually around the same time that my daughter was born. So I was actually going from the hospital to practice. That might be a little bit obsessive. I don't know. But we went there early. But once we got there, I didn't go to practice. So I at least didn't do that. But last year was Mike McDaniel. This year's going to be Sean McVay. The thing that I'm most looking forward to, and you'll have the natural matchups. It's one-on-ones are so badass in joint practices, because instead of, Derek Stingley going against Nico Collins or Tank Dell or Stefon Diggs, which is always cool, he's going to be going against someone on the Rams. And you're going to have to see, like Kamari Lassiter is going to have to guard Cooper Kupp or Puka or whoever else. So you'll get a look at that. But I also think it's fun because you kind of get to see how Sean McVay runs his practice and just kind of how he carries himself. I'm a big Sean McVay guy. And I think he's kind of, you can connect him to the most popular pipeline in the NFL, the Shanahan, Kubiak kind of the pipeline. And he's kind of done it his own way, which I think D'Amico does it his own way as well. I think Mike McDaniel does it his own way, but there's a lot of similarities and philosophically there's a lot of alignment there. But I always enjoy with these. I just like looking at the coach and seeing just how he conducts himself. The only time I did was when that fat ass Matt Patricia almost broke my foot when the Lions came to town, because he's just a sloppy, inconsiderate moron. But that was the only time I didn't really enjoy it, when the Lions came to town. That dude was rolling around on a four-wheeler. He had a hurt foot, and he's just rolling around on a four-wheeler like he's freaking Undertaker during the Badass era. He didn't get me. He bumped me. Damn sure. Are the starters going to play against the Rams? D'Amico hasn't said yet. I would say I hope not. I think the starters will get their work on Thursday. On Thursday, I think we'll see the starters get their work. And then on Saturday, I think we're going to see the guys that are kind of on the fringe, trying to make the team, trying to show something. I think we'll see them. I don't think we see a ton of starters. Who knows? I could be surprised, but remember they had the extra preseason game. So I don't think they're going to put the starters out there. No idea. Don't ever disrespect the American Badass. Hey, I would never disrespect the Undertaker. H-Town legend. The Matt Patricia, dude, his fat ass, I'm just sitting there. So here's how it's going. So if y'all have ever been out to the Texans field, there's 4 fields. There's one all the way like towards Maine. There's one right here, which is the one that they typically practice on. And then there's the main field. So there's 3 fields. And we're sitting there watching because the D linemen or whatever are over here on the field closest to Maine. I think the secondary is right here, and then they're going to team right here. And the media is just sitting there watching the practice, just sitting here. And all of a sudden, I feel something like kind of on my hamstring, and I'm hearing like a sudden noise, and I'm sitting where I'm supposed to be. Like there's a roped off area where we're supposed to be. And this fat ass just comes over on his bike and like hits my foot. Oh, my bad. Like he's a damn old person in a wheelchair at HEB or something like that. Buddy, I mean, you could snap someone's foot with that. He's just going around like it's a damn bumper car at the amusement park. I'll never forget that. I really wonder how much would he have to pay me if he just like shattered my foot? He's going around on this thing like it's a damn. You ever been at the grocery store where like the old ladies in the rascal? Are they still? Is that what they call them, rascals? Where like they have like the wheels and like the basket on the front, and she's kind of like aggressively, excuse me, sir. Hey, can you get that off the top shelf for me? Yeah, right there. No, not that one. That one. Yeah, no, not that one. That one. Yeah, that one. Yeah. Oh, thank you very much, young man. And then you hand it to her. I don't blame her for being aggressive, man. It's got to be kind of claustrophobic to be an elder person. You can't move around like you used to. You're lower than everybody else. You're not able to just kind of push the cart. Your options of being able to reach stuff is kind of limited. So you're kind of like, if you're 6 aisles up, you're basically at 3. I don't have any problem. Hell, I would follow the lady around and get her groceries if she wanted me to. If she bumps into me, no problem, ma'am. This dude's on a damn oversized 4-wheeler. Biggest 4-wheeler you've ever seen. I don't think there's like the rich hunters. We all have like rich hunter friends. I don't even think they have 4-wheelers this big. And this guy's just going around like he's one of those damn ladies at the grocery store. Now, I don't hear something on my hamstring. I feel something on my hamstring. Maybe I misspoke. I hear something like, and then I feel something on my hamstring and I move my foot real quick. And everybody talked about what an arrogant jackass he was. I witnessed it right there. And then it was just like hey, my bud. Enough about Matt Patricia. Yeah, the horn. He probably was going around. And then he would sit there on the drills. Like he would pull up when they were on team, and he'd pull up like right by the huddle on his four-wheeler with like his leg up. So he didn't even have his feet to the side. He had like one leg on the thing, and he would be sitting there doing that, sitting there looking at that. Garbage. But I say all that to say joint practices are fun, except one time. Oh, I would have gone to Zell on Friday. What would my acting skills have been like? Yeah, that's what I would have gone. I'm suing y'all. Oh my gosh, Matt Patricia, man, what a beating that was. Remember when we were worried about the Texans copying the Patriot way? Like, oh my gosh, the Patriot way. Is Nick Caserio going to hire someone that's going to be the Patriot way? And then he got D'Amico, and we were all okay. But before that, it kind of felt like it was going to be Jonathan Gannon. We all remember that. Yeah, this would have been me if Matt Patricia would have hit me. I probably actually could have done this with how he hit me, honestly. Like if I really wanted to play it, I could have gone like this with Matt Patricia.
Oh, I'm hurt. Oh, my neck, my back, my neck and my back. Oh, I want 150,000. But we can start out of court right now for $20.
Man, get your punk ass up. It ain't even wet over here.
That would have been me if he'd hit me. We can settle for 100 gur. Was I at the D-Hop? I was not. The D'Angelo Hall D-Hop fall down? No. But that was how Hopkins practiced when he practiced. He didn't always practice, but whenever he did practice, man, he was bringing it. I know B.O.B. was a little bit frustrated with him after a while, but what is that? What do I know about Friday? Come on, dude. Give me a break. I can recite. I can recite the whole movie Friday. What the hell do you mean? What do I know about Friday? What do you know about CB4? Tell me what you know about CB4, my man. Come on. The hell do you know about Friday? Come on. Patrick with a little Damian Pierce take, little fire. I think Pierce is going to make the team and shock people. He's going to be RB2. Only have 4 and 5 runs each game. The whole line not been together at really no point last season. Okay, 4 or 5. So what is Mixon getting 20? I think that would be crazy. If we had Jonathan Gannon, do you think Nick would be gone by now? I don't know. I don't think Jonathan Gannon's a bad coach. I don't think the fans would have bought in. I think it would have been as simple as you got to win or lose. I think when they brought in D'Amico, I think there was excitement no matter what. When there would have been a little bit more bought in patience. It also happened to be that D'Amico was the most coveted coach during that string of looking for coaches. But I think that I don't know how Jonathan Gannon would coach. We'll see how he does in Arizona. Yeah, that was definitely. And by the way, Primetime V, what do I know about Friday? You're absolutely right. That was 100,000% worthy of this.
Race car.
Yeah, that was disrespectful right there, man. I was on the McCown train, man. I wanted Josh McCown. I F it at that point. I always thought McCown would be a good coach. He kind of was more worried about coaching his son's high school team. But, hey, they got David Culley, and they ended up being bad, and that ended up happening. Pierce is going to be RB gone. Perhaps. Can Autry appeal his suspension? He said he's not going to. So there's that. Don't think that's going to never any harsh feelings, no matter what, my friend. But I appreciate y'all for coming through. Be sure to subscribe, like, right along. The joint practices. I'll have a practice report tomorrow. Tomorrow we'll have a practice report live right here at about this time. Once practice concludes, Thursday we will have a practice report of what goes down at joint practices. And as always, when it comes to this Texan stuff, be sure to swarm that like button. Reminder, subscribe, thumbs up for the best Texans coverage, and swarm that like button. And most importantly, always remember, when it comes to this Texan stuff, we're all in it together. Thanks for coming through.
We the source, we the pulse of the city too. Landlocked, got the game in the headlock. Localized every time, can't stop, won't stop. Yeah, we top 2 and we not too. Plugged in daily digital on YouTube. We got taste for days, opinions to give, we got takeaways. If it's up, then it's up, we number 1. You don't need to try your luck. Locker room, yeah, we in the locker room. Texas talk, yeah, you know what we about to do. Localize, every angle's what we really do. We the source, we the pulse of the city too.